What is a not fun fact? In Australia, there is a plant called the gimpy gimpy, which has such a severe sting that horses who brush against it throw themselves off cliffs because they'd rather die than continue to experience the pain. Yeah, it happens to people too. If I refer correctly, it's because of the toxin in the needle-like fibers on the plant, and the pain lasts for weeks, months to year. People beg for amputations to end their life, comas, not a fun plan. Penguins force the intimacy of anything that looks vaguely penguin-like or doesn't move. In fact, it was so rampant that 1910 to 1913 Scott Antarctic expedition decided it was best not to bring it up to society, wouldn't have to deal with the issue it would bring up. Scientists witnessed males having intimacy with other males and also with their females, including several that had died the previous year. He also saw them intimacy coerce females and chicks and occasionally end their life. The scientists blamed this astonishing depravity on hooligan males and wrote down his observation in Greek so that only an educated gentleman would understand the horrors he had witnessed. Kowalski analysis. Body is still usable, sir. If a hamster gets too stressed, it will eat its kids. I had a hamster I had no idea was female. She had 7 babies. She ate 3 and suffocated the other 4. 2 weeks later, she broke out of her cage and found a mouse trap. That's a fun memory from my childhood. There is a genetic disease called FOP, where your muscles and tissues turn to bone, often called human statue disease. Eventually, people may have to decide whether they want to become frozen in a sitting or flat standing position. Holey, imagine being forced to choose which way you want to spend your life, but you can't move out of it. F that. Paraplegic here. The correct answer is sitting. You want a low center of gravity and to minimize the chance that you're going to pendulum your skull into cement. The number 1 cause of death among pregnant women is forceful end of their life. Just a couple of days ago, a town in Poland was absolutely mortified when a body of a pregnant 13-year-old girl was found in the countryside. Culprit and a supposed father is a 15-year-old boy. He already confessed. Since he isn't 17, lower limit of legal persecution, he is facing some 3 years in teenagers correctional facility until he turns 18. These facilities are open, by the way, since you cannot convict someone twice for the same crime. That's all. Horses can throw up, so if they eat something bad or get a bad gas bubble, they just lay down and die. Urine was used for teeth whitening and bleaching of clothes in ancient Rome. Yes, they rinse their mouths with human and animal urine. Oh god, imagine all their clothes smelling like peas. They definitely wash it out with water, but there's gotta be that remaining sour smell. People with extreme scurvy start to have all of the old wounds open up. Everything with a scar is held together via an active process with collagen, and without vitamin C. Just sort of stop. What? A man once had a tapeworm get cancer. That cancer metastasized and the man died from the tumor of tapeworm throughout his entire body. So this one set off my detector big time, but turns out it's true. Usually the body's immune system would have stopped this from happening, but the doctors believe it was due to the man having HIV and not taking his medication, which made it possible. Has made me decide I never want to get one of those crazy weight loss treatments where they put a tapeworm in my belly to tumor food for me. The reason you're supposed to contact a doctor if you have an erection lasting longer than 4 hours is because prolonged priapism can lead to gangrene of that part. Blood goes in, deoxygenates, but can't leave, so there is no way for fresh oxygenated blood to come in, causing the tissue to turn black and die. Don't worry though, this can be treated by using a big syringe to suck the trapped blood out. A big syringe on an Tissue death doesn't sound too bad. The little girl who voiced Ducky in the first Land Before Time was killed by her father before the movie came out. Her gravestone says, "Yup, yup, yup." Her name was Judith Barcy, and she was also in Jaws. Poor kid died a horrible death.
Yep, yep, yep.
Oftentimes, when pandas have cubs, if they have more than one, they will choose which one to keep and abandon the other, because she can't care for two. Grizzlies are the opposite. If they have a litter of just one, sometimes they'll abandon it and try to mate again the next year to try for a litter of multiple cubs. So realistically, I could potentially find an abandoned panda baby and raise him to become the heir to my noodle shop. The reason dogs love squeaky toys is because they sound like small animals dying. Why do you think cats like the noise? It sounds like happy rats. An old roommate had pet rats, and they would make a happy little chittering noise when content. Sounded a lot like the noise we use to attract cats. Valentine's Day is a holiday with one of the highest end-life rates. During World War I, thousands of dogs were taken from families for the war effort, and when the war was over, most of them were just shot because it was cheaper than feeding them for the trip home and finding their home. Yep, my great uncle was in Vietnam as an MP, military police, and trained a German shepherd named Ox from the time it was a pup until he deployed. He spent over a year in Nam and he begged to pay the military to take the dog with him. They refused, and when the next MP came in, they gave him Ox. Ox wouldn't listen to the MP, so instead of shipping it home or letting my uncle pay, they shot him. My uncle is a great dude, and the story rips me up. He refused to own another dog the rest of his life because it would never be as good as Ox. Quokka, the world's happiest animal, will throw their babies at attackers if threatened. Same. Climbing Mount Everest has a 6.5 mortality rate. What's more harrowing is that if you die, you will most likely be left there. There's currently over 200 dead bodies on Everest that are irretrievable and now serve as markers for other climbers. Not a bad place to eternally rest, but upsetting for those left behind who can't give you a proper burial. Climbing K2, the second tallest mountain in the world, has a fatality rate of 29%. You can smell your own lungs. Your brain just filters out the smell. The search and rescue dogs on September 11 were getting so sad from finding only dead bodies, the human helpers buried themselves in the rubble so that the dogs could find them and be happy. Some perfumes, or more specifically musks, you use come from the anal and secretion glands of musk deers and civet cats. People who end in their life by jumping off a bridge, those who don't die from the impact, drown because the impact breaks enough bones that prevents them from swimming. Your intestines will wriggle themselves back into the correct position. Doctors who do any type of intestinal surgery don't have to worry too much about how they put the intestines back in. During World War II, the Japanese built a human testing facility in China, which has come to be known as Unit 731. This was worse than a lot of concentration camps, but the people involved were never punished because the US granted them immunity and attempted to cover it up in exchange for access to their research. The Soviet Union attempted to try the people involved, and the US called it communist propaganda. The test subjects involved prisoners, but also the homeless, the mentally disabled, and random Chinese civilians kidnapped from nearby towns, including pregnant women and infants. Prisoners were injected with CTD, mainly syphilis, and then forced at gunpoint to spread the disease. Some of these prisoners included pregnant women, in which case they would either be vivisected live and have their fetuses removed, or the syphilis-riddled babies would be born and eventually killed. They also participated in biological biological warfare in civil cities, usually by infecting fleas with paratyphoid and releasing them. They tested any and all sorts of weapons on the prisoners, notably grenades and chemical bombs. Most of the experiments had no practical application and were done purely out of sadism. The Japanese government didn't officially admit to this until 2003, and the US still actively denies it. So yeah, have fun thinking about this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.